Welcome everybody back to the Check Swing podcast with myself and of course the brains and the brawn and the beauty of the show. Coach Santa is in the building all the way live from Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore to
Tomorrow.
have big fun in Baltimore with big fun. Y'all know what that's from, right? You know what that's from, right?
Absolutely classic. That was my first crush. Mrs. Huxtable. Mrs. Huxtable was my first crush.
Really?
Yeah, and I've had about 6.
You said you had about 6.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, that was my first crush. I'm kind of embarrassed to say because I have no idea what she looks like now.
Mhm.
But the first crush I remember was Debbie Gibson. Do you remember Debbie Gibson?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I have no idea. I don't even remember what she looked. I'm going to Google her right now. If let me see. Hold on, 'cause I don't want to say anything bad about my first crush. So let me see.
So why you find her my second crush was April from Knight Rider.
Oh, really?
Right, and she was only on for like 2 seasons.
I remember her.
And then they got Bonnie back, and I was like, "Heh."
That's what you said.
Yeah, I'm like, "Heh."
So I'm looking at Debbie Gibson right now, and you know what she looked like to me? Kind of a little bit. It might be the hat. I don't know. She kind of looks like back in the day. Not really, but kind of looks like Blossom to me. She just kind of reminds me of. She doesn't look like Blossom. She kind of reminds me of Blossom a little bit. You remember Blossom?
Yeah, that's another.
Bialik, I believe her
That's
name.
that's too unfortunate. Yeah.
And then of course there was always Lisa Turtle. Definitely had a crush on Lisa Turtle.
My
Dark
third
skin.
crush. My third crush was, and we celebrate the anniversary of her passing, Selena.
Selena. You know what, Miguel? I'm gonna tell you something interesting.
Oh,
I had no idea of who Selena was, right?
mhm.
And I think I learned of her after her passing. Obviously, it was after her passing, but I think it was like maybe a year or two after her I don't feel like I learned of her when the murder happened because she was murdered, right?
Yes.
I don't believe I knew of her when the murder happened. But I think it's I think it's fascinating that now it's a different time, right? Back
Mhm.
then it was a different time. I just think it's fascinating that a star that big could go unknown to me. And I'm not saying anything about me, but I'm just saying can go. And like I don't know if any of my friends knew about Selena,
Mhm.
and she was like a huge megastar. And I just
Well, keep in mind too, she was crossing over. So like she actually passed away after maybe what, like 6 or 7 months after the launch of her first American pop album, and she had like skyrocketed.
oh, is
So
that why? Okay,
right. So
I
so
got
she was starting to, and then once they figured out, wow, like she was this Mexican star pretty much from when she was young. Um, and now she's crossing over, and she had like 3 or 4 number one hits, and it's like, oh, she's on the rise, and then that happened. And she was actually pregnant at the time.
Oh, when she was killed, she was murdered. She was
Hmm.
pregnant.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah, and
wow.
now and it's crazy because I think the killer wound up finishing out her prison term, and I don't know if I forget if she got out or not.
Oh,
But
she was
now
killed
that
by a woman.
she was killed by the president of her fan club.
Wow.
Go watch the movie Selena with Jennifer Lopez and
I've seen it. I've seen. I just don't remember. I don't remember those details, but I have seen. I didn't like you
yeah.
saying. It kind of reminded me that it was the president of fan. Like I knew. I knew it was something. Like I thought it was like a an obsessed fan. But you saying what you said kind of jogged that vibe. Um, it's, you celebrities, man, y'all gotta be careful out here because these people crazy. These people are crazy. I mean, like I think about sometimes how people get stalked. Celebrities that get
Mhm.
stalked by somebody they have no idea who they are, but these people be like, "Yeah, I'm in love with you, and you're in love with me." Like I'm here to be with you. I'll be the best person for you. You know what I mean? Like their mind just takes them on that trip, on that journey. But well, that's not what we're here to talk about today. I,
we went
I
to, we went to right field and beyond.
and beyond. Um, but I do want to talk about a celebrity.
Uh-oh.
And last week, I believe it was Tuesday, the day after we were streaming live, we were giving the news that O.J. Simpson had passed away um, from complications with was it
Pro-
cancer?
prostate cancer.
Prostate cancer. And I remember talking to somebody and telling them, he died of prostate cancer, and they were telling me like they were saying he must not have been going to the doctor because it's very rare to die from prostate cancer, from what they were telling me.
Well, true, but it may have been prostate cancer because even his last post talked about you know he sounds like an uber positive salesman. You know what I mean? Like, I was sick for a little bit, but I'm on the mend. That he kept speaking it like that.
Yeah.
So
Maybe he was one of the people that believed in speaking things into existence. Maybe he was one of those people. Like he kept saying he was innocent and he was acquitted. So
that might have been Johnny Cochran.
probably the rhyme had something to do with it. But yeah, O.J. Simpson passed away, man, and I, for one, ever since, personally, I'll put it out there. I'm one of the people that feel like O.J. didn't do it. You can hate me if you want. I don't care. It's my opinion. Like O.J. didn't do it, right? And part of it is because he was acquitted. Right? There's no video of it as in other crimes where there's video and they still get acquitted. This is just all hearsay and all like that. But I always
they had they had the only witness was a dog.
Yeah, the barking dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, long day. I always thought that I always wondered if we would get like a bed
death bed confession.
Yeah, I always wondered that. Now I know that we didn't get it. I don't know, the family knows if he did it or not.
Well, the interesting thing is, you have the Goldman family, who I think after the civil lawsuit, I think they were supposed to get like somewhere around $33 million, and I think as of today, they got a total of, I think, $32,050.22 or something. But there was a rumor that OJ actually had his entire family at his bedside sign an NDA. So that way nobody can recoup any funds
from
the lawsuit.
This is actually the first I'm hearing of that, right? Mm-hmm. But I did read something today about his will and I don't want to say everything is going to his son Justin, but I want to say Justin might be in charge of the estate.
Which makes sense, yeah.
And there is some verbiage in there about like if you dispute something or there's some type of, I've had to pull it back up. I didn't realize I was going to take this route today. That if you dispute something or something, people that are in they'll get nothing, or they'll get like $1 or something like that. Something great, like they'll get like $1. And you speak of the Goldman family, and I still feel bad for the Goldman family because they lost a loved one. You know what I mean? Their loved one was murdered. No matter who did it, their loved one was murdered. And they believe that O.J. Simpson murdered their son. He was acquitted, but they never stopped pursuing O.J., right? Because of course O.J. did lose the civil suit. or he was found liable in the civil suit. Um, I'm wondering if Ron Goldman's going to go after the estate and the kids and all like that. But there actually, I believe, is some verbiage in there that says the Goldman family gets nothing. I read that in the article. There's some verbiage in the will that said, and the law and OJ's lawyer is said, and I'm determined to make sure they don't get anything. That's what I read. I believe the article might have been in People Magazine, an
So
article
the
from magazine.
so this was from TMZ, high class organization, I think.
Hey, TMZ. I always say this: TMZ got famous, or I should say, got popular and famous from Michael Jackson's death. Because before they were just like one of them tabloid type of
Right.
John. But when they were the first to break Michael Jackson's death, then they became very credible
Right.
in the eyes of the public. But go ahead, TMZ.
Right. So, according to TMZ, NDAs were required of his entire family, including two children, Sydney 38 and Justin 35, and the children that he had with Nicole Brown Simpson. But it's not clear what this alleged NDA covered, but it may explain why the death of the 76-year-old came as a surprise to those outside of the circle.
What do you make of that? Like, what would like the death was kind of a surprise. I mean, we knew that we know OJ wasn't a spring chicken. We know he was up in age. We know he was dealing with a cancer. But what's the surprise? Like,
It matches his persona. Because here's my thing, right? Let's time lapse back to around 95, 96 after the acquittal, right?
mhm.
If you and I, right, were involved in a case where we were in prison, hearing truths and lies in court and dealing with all that stuff in the press for almost 2 years, and you get acquitted. I'm sorry, me. I'm hunkering down. I'm playing my I'm playing my Sega Genesis. Playing like NFL football, Ultra Beast, whatever, and I'm not talking to nobody anymore. You know what I mean? But after that, if you go on YouTube, you'll find everything that I'm talking about. You find out on YouTube. He did a 2-hour special trying to reclaim his image, right? So he actually did a walkthrough of his compound, of Nicole Simpson's compound, and he went through the areas that they found the glove, and he's like, this must be where they planted all of my blood evidence, and you know what I mean? And then a couple years after that, he comes out with the book If I Did It.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting side by side with, okay, this is how I would have done it. It matches the persona, many people changed their minds after those two events.
Yes, you're right.
You dig what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you were truly innocent, number one, why are you coming out with a 2-hour special to try to still change everybody's mind when everybody was on your side anyway? And then number two, why come out with something that's so pompous and arrogant and come out with something joking? If I did it, like, why?
Let me try to answer that in some way, shape, or form. Not that I'm trying to convince you, but I actually want to kind of dig into that a little bit. You started off that statement by talking about, if you or I were to do it, I'd said I'd disappear. You said you hunkered down, play Genesis, drink some juice, whatever the case may be. You ain't talking about it. Now, OJ Simpson, it's not us, right? OJ Simpson, Hall of Fame football player, big time movie stars, getting money doing movies, right? And now all of a sudden, all that stops because of. Okay, let me take it from this angle. As I'm saying this, let's say he's completely innocent and he didn't do it, right? So you Hall of Fame football player, now nobody's talking about your Hall of Fame career. Nobody refers to you as the Hall of Fame OJ Simpson, Buffalo Bills, USC, 49ers, even though 49ers, that was late in his career. Nobody's talking about your roles in the Naked Gun movies and whatever else you were in, right? And now that money is not coming in either because all that has ceased. And now you got all these these legal fees. I always felt like the things he was doing was for money. Personally, I always thought it was for money. I also thought it was like stupid, but I thought it was for money. Um, and and what you were saying about like almost trying to clear his name.
Mhm.
If I'm him in his position, yeah, I'm trying to clear my name because I'm OJ. I'm everybody's favorite person. I'm the Hall of Fame football player. I'm an actor. I'm trying to clear that name.
Mhm.
My name being in the position I'm in now, as long as I'm good with my family,
Mhm.
I'm not worried about what the outside world thinks. And I'm thinking you're probably on the same
Yeah.
wave because you said you would hunker down. So that's why that's kind of why I thought like OJ was doing some of the things he did. I think he needed the money and he wanted to clear his name and he wanted to be OJ again.
Mhm.
He wanted to be OJ instead of being OJ Simpson,
Right.
if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. Or he wanted to be OJ Simpson again and not OJ. Because
Right.
after he was accused of murder, he was OJ. Football
Right.
player OJ Simpson.
Right. Or no, he was the acquitted of murder, O.J. Simpson.
Acquitted of murder.
But
It's
the good.
it's funny how they, and I said this on the 10-7 show on Sunday. Oh, by the way, you was hilarious on the 10-7 show. Your comments, it was hilarious. It's funny how when they were reporting on his death, okay.
Yeah.
And in this instance, I'm talking about ABC News in particular because it's the only one I was watching at the time. They started off by, so when people die, and let me just put something out there for people that may not know. In the TV industry, if you work in the news or something like that, there are, I want to say they call them obits. Can't really remember. I think they might be called obits. There are already obits prepared for
Mhm.
people for when they die. Okay. So like it wasn't like OJ died and they had to get all this footage together and all like that. All this is prepared. Let's take an older celebrity that's still alive right now. William Shatner is an older celebrity,
He's still
right?
alive?
I think so.
Sorry.
I think so. That's for the sake of this argument, let's just say he's still alive. Because I think he is. What's up, William Shatner? What's up, Billy? Um, when the day comes that William Shatner transitions from his earthly being, there is already stuff in ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MTV, whatever the case may be. There's already video for when he passes away, and they just add to it if things happen as they die. The Pope, they have one for the Pope right now. The president, they have one for each president right now as we speak. Each living president, they have one for them right now. So to go back to what I was saying, ABC, when they first started talking about him, they said, he was a football player, Hall of Fame, Buffalo Bills. That was pretty much the end of it as far as football. The rest of the, I'm going to say 3, 4, 5 minutes was about the murder.
Right.
And I personally didn't like that. I mean, I know that's what he's famous for now for most people,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of people still walking this earth that knew OJ before he was an accused killer. They knew him as the Hall of Fame football player. And most people walking the earth that didn't know him as the football player only know him as the accused murderer. And that's what the news chose to focus on. Now, is it a sensitive subject? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have mentioned it. They absolutely should have mentioned it as part of the story. But so is the football. If you're going to talk about somebody's life, okay, let's give him the respect. No, no, let me take that back. In death, give him the respect of being exonerated. Is that the right word?
I hear what you're saying as far as exoneration, but he did no favors for himself.
I totally agree. Totally agree with that.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree with that.
And the other thing is too, and I think there was a 30 for 30 about, OJ. It was like a 98 part series. But there were people that were because going back to what you said about like him doing it for the money, I kind of disagree for the simple fact that he was actually making deals for his memorabilia. He a lot of the stuff that he wrote about, or a lot of stuff that he locked down financially, paperwork wise, he actually did while he was in prison. So people like, oh, he's like, struggling for cash or whatnot, but there's a reason why in the $33 million civil suit that he's only paid out $32,000. Um, and it's because he actually did some moving and some shaking and moved some things here, some things there, put stuff in children's and aunties' names and stuff like that, which I mean, from a standpoint of preserving your finances and possibly your legacy, was a smart move. But from a standpoint of if you actually committed the murder and you're trying to convince people that you aren't a murderer, isn't really high on the overturn my feelings list. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. But
And
I
so,
just think about some of the other people that have been accused of murder and have gotten off, and
mhm,
like they did it. Like people assume OJ did it. They assume because they were not there.
mhm,
There was no video, so you have to assume.
mhm.
You have to. Whereas you have a guy like George Zimmerman, it was on video. It was on the audio was recorded. You know he killed that kid. He gets exonerated. Nobody says a thing about him anymore. Now, if he were to die tomorrow, they would talk about the only thing there would really be to talk about with him would be the murder.
Would be the murder, right? Because he wasn't known or
He
cared
wasn't
about
known for
anything.
anything else until the murder.
Mhm,
I just think that the fact that he was acquitted, OJ was found guilty in a court of public opinion way before he was found not guilty in the court of law. And in the court of public opinion, after he was found not guilty in the court of law, the court of public opinion never changed their mind.
I
And I
don't.
think it's unfortunate for him.
I don't know. Again, because I go through these spells of going down the rabbit holes of watching videos of events as they had happened and whatnot.
Mhm.
It was pretty much. I think America was on OJ's side because I even remember we were watching the um
Let me stop you just for a second. Half of America was on OJ's side. I feel like there were
okay.
a lot of people that, and the reason I say that is because if you were watching the show on Sunday, we were actually talking about. I asked the question, "Where were you when the verdict was read?"
I was actually gonna
And
say,
my
yeah.
wife mentioned how the teacher rolled the TV into the classroom, and when the verdict was read, her teacher was pissed and slammed the TV off. While the rest of the class, who a majority of those people look like me, if not all of them,
Mhm.
were celebrating. And you kind of saw it. And I feel like the media kind of purposely did that too.
Yeah, that's true.
When the black people were happy that OJ and the white people were not happy about OJ. So I feel like the media and man, I'm not trying to sound like Donald Trump, but the media has a way to narrate a story.
Oh, absolutely.
They have a way to narrate a story.
Have you ever seen? It was on FX, the People versus O.J. Simpson.
Oh, it was great.
One of my personal favorite, I guess you can say, documentaries. Although I do believe that John Travolta's head was too big to be.
He was a very weird Robert Shapiro to me.
Good. Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen?
He was too big to be Robert Shapiro.
Yeah, like his shoulders were too broad. Like Shapiro had like everyone else. The guy that played Johnny Cochran, spot on. The guy that played the black prosecutor, spot on. Marcia Clark, spot on. The only two people that were kind of off to me were John Travolta, and I did not. The mannerisms and the way he spoke, I think Cuba Gooding got OJ down, but as far as it's the look, I was like, he didn't look like OJ.
The look didn't do it. Yeah, the look didn't do it for me. He may have had the demeanor that he had the walk.
Yeah, he had the walk. He had the demeanor.
I tell you who does the walk pretty well, and I didn't realize it till maybe 2-3 days ago. Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx did the walk in one of his stand-ups. He was talking about his wife, and he was doing the walk, and I saw an old interview with OJ walking. He was walking with the reporter, and the walk was exactly the same. Exactly the same. It was like he just couldn't get going. He's walking.
Right.
Like Jamie had it down.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, OJ gone. And no bedside confession that we know of.
So all things aside, what is it? 40 some years after the murder, you experienced everything then, during, and now. As of this very singular moment, do you still believe that OJ was innocent?
Completely innocent? No.
Okay.
I don't believe he was completely innocent.
What does that mean?
I don't necessarily believe that he did it, but I don't necessarily believe that he didn't have something to do with it or knows about who did it.
So you believe them going after him civilly was warranted?
In a yeah, I have to, because of what I just said. I have to believe going after him civilly was warranted. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Said Coach Watch and Coach Sandy, you guys are a terrific team. Thank you very much.
Is Monroe's last name actually Bang or Bangay or Banye?
I think it's Bange.
Oh, I was way off. Sorry. I was gonna say if it was like Banye, that's pretty cool.
It could be that.
Bange isn't bad.
He's known me my whole life, and I think that's the first time I've ever said his last name.
It's awkward. Okay.
Very good friend of my father's, actually.
Gotcha.
Very good friend of my father. Yeah, it's probably that might be the first time I ever said his last name. I'm thinking about it.
So you think he was complicit in a different way, but didn't actually slash the throat?
I think he knows something. I think he knows something. If you check out and there's my dad. I agree.
Good dad. What's up, Pops?
Appreciate it. I believe that he knows knew something. I really do. A lot of people believe, and it actually the first person I ever heard say this was actually my father. But a lot of people believe that his son did it, and he was covering up for his son.
I've heard that, yeah.
And a lot of people use that video of when OJ pulled up to the house. I think it was,
And he comes right out, yeah.
And comes running right out. I mean, that meant something to a lot of people. I guess for me at the time, I really didn't. My mind wasn't there, and I was. What was that? 96, 95?
So the murder was in 94, and then the trial was 95 through 96, I believe.
Yeah. So I was 94. I was 13. 95, 14. Something bad. And so my mind wasn't there, right? Like that never ever stood out to me until somebody actually pointed it out to me like 20 years later. Actually, like this is 20 years later, but anyway.
Simple math again.
This is 30 years later. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But I will say this. That trial, along with the movie My Cousin Vinny, made me want to be a lawyer. And the only reason I didn't go to law school, you laugh, but I'm dead serious. I'm dead ass.
That was a good movie too.
The only reason I didn't pursue law school is I took the practice LSAT and I get past the second question. It's like, what are they even asking me? I don't even know what they talk about. Like, maybe not. Maybe
right,
not. I never know. Maybe I'll try it one day. I don't know. But yeah, those two events, the My Cousin Vinny movie, which is one of my favorite movies of all time,
great classic,
and the OJ trial. Like I was so locked in. I was so locked into that trial. I mean, of course, it was on the summer. I would go out and play with my friends and stuff like that. But I was like, if I was in the house, I was locked in on that trial. Except for at 1:00 and 1:30, I would watch the Cosby Show. But outside of that, I was locked in on the trial.
Yeah, we had. I don't know if you guys had it in your schools, but we had TV1.
I had that. I didn't have it when I was at Penwood. It wasn't until after I transferred.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were watching that. I remember it was after like 5th period, and our English teacher at the time, and she was the sweetest old lady, but she was just not like quick. She was very like she was methodical and purposeful. We're like, we know that we're reading The Outsiders, but can we watch the verdict for the O.J. Simpson trial? And she claimed like, oh, I don't know how to turn the TV on, and we're like, oh, we got the remote, it's right here. But I remember because that particular class we had like 5 or 6 of the football players on the football team, so we sit together, whatever. And I remember like we're anticipating everything, and I like what the show did in The People versus O.J. Simpson. Like what's gonna happen, but at the time, like you go through the process where the floor person checks out the mail about the voting ballots, and the chairperson walks it over to the security guard. Like that whole scene was just like so dramatic. Mm-hmm. And I remember once they read the verdict, like 4 of the 7 of us ran into the hallway, and they're like, "We won! They finally didn't get us." And I think too, because I think at the beginning of that show, it opens with the Rodney King beating, right? Mm-hmm. Because there was that fear. They had like what the cops on the horses. They had paddy wagons. Like they were prepared after the verdict for an all-out anarchy.
Yes, they were.
Because this was only 4 years removed from the Los Angeles race riots from the beating of Rodney King.
92?
91, 92. Well, 91 was the beating, 92 was the case. And I love the thing I loved about that show was like you had little bits and pieces of it. Like there was a part where they're talking to the one investigator with the bald head. I always forget his name. And they're joking about a show in the hallway. And he said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, when I got the evidence, I took it with me, um, and then I brought it back into processing the next day, which was a big thing. Which was a big thing about tampered evidence in the case." And he's like, "Where do you live again?" He's like, "I live in Simi Valley." And he's like, "Isn't Simi Valley where the?" He's like, "Simi Valley." He's like, "Home of the all of the acquitted officers in the Rodney King trial." And then the officer was like, "Yeah," and then his face just dropped like, oh, "You got to be kidding me." And then he uses it against him when Cochran cross examines him. So it was like, it's one of those shows I actually rewatch almost like once a year from beginning to end. That's how much I love.
People versus OJ.
Huh? Yeah.
Not the people versus. Yeah, I want to watch it again. I want to watch it again because
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed it because I was so locked into it back in the 90s when it happened.
Mhm.
And again, I agree with you. John Travolta was a weird Robert Shapiro. Just
Yeah,
didn't do it for me. And and Cuba Gooden, the look wasn't there.
yeah.
The look wasn't there. The attitude and stuff was there, but the look wasn't there, and like the size, like he was too.
Yeah. He looked a bit undersized, yeah, because
Yeah,
OJ's head was like long, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, but I don't know who you could find.
OJ's head was like a football helmet.
There you go.
Yeah. But well, there you have it. We got some other things to talk about today, but we wanted to get that in because OJ died a week after, or day after we recorded last week. But last Friday, yeah, and every Friday after that, the Philadelphia Phillies unleashed their City Connect jerseys, which we told y'all a couple of months ago that that's what they were going to look like. Okay. Um, and there they go right there. And mixed mixed reviews, right? Mixed reviews of them. They lost. What you think, Miguel?
I don't know. I think they're growing on me for the simple fact that the starting pitcher, Christopher Sanchez, he had the high socks.
Mhm.
So to me, it was kind of like, okay, it kind of breaks up the contrast a little bit, and it was like, okay, you know, I still think the white lettering should have been like a different color, like either blue or gold.
It probably should have
Um,
been the coloring that's behind them.
yeah, that would have probably been perfect.
Mhm.
But other than that, they're kind of grow. I think I just need to see them a couple more times to. It's like one of those things, like, you know, when you have a camera that's out of focus, you got to go like out and then in, and
Yeah.
you know, and then like maybe have some a shot of tequila and smoke some crack, and maybe it'll kind of like settle in. You know what I mean?
But we're not promoting or condoning smoking crack, people. Just so y'all know, we're not. The
I
views
mean,
here on this show are of the people that say them and the people that say them only, not of New Twist Radio or the Check Swing Podcast. Just
there you
putting that
go.
out. The only two things I told you that I dislike about these uniforms are one, the font that they used for the Philly on the front, and of course the fact that it's like all white like that. I think they could have did better with that. And I don't like the yellow piping stripe down the side of the pants. I don't like that at all.
They've done that with a couple of. I'm like, they were really into number one. They were really into black or dark pants the last 2 years. Nike has,
Hmm.
because they did that with what, Texas and Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and Seattle. So they all have like black pants. So um, I mean, even if they would have gone, I think even with white pants or cream pants, it may have. I don't know. It's the. I just got. I need more time with it. I need to like. I don't know. It needs to be like embedded into my DNA a little bit more, and you know, maybe it's the, I don't know, maybe it's the pants, but I'm actually considering. I think I might order the hat, because
Oh,
I
like the hat.
and I was looking at like they have like the like bench shirts and stuff like that, they're sold out in like any size above a medium or a small.
Yeah, you go
Uh,
either way.
yeah, so the some of the jerseys that I like, they're all sold out. I'm like, okay, so people are buying them. So I guess we'll see. And I was reading something today that what throws it off is that 95% of the stadium had either like white or red or like even the powder blue. So the contrast is like off. They said it almost seemed like two teams rented the facility and just played during the Phillies time. So it's like kind of like it's a mismatch, because most stadiums they decorate like the perimeter of the stadium in the team colors, and this is so new, and you know it's just hard on the eyes, I guess, on TV.
And I know that you're not a big fan of like the all same color or the all solid color baseball uniform. You've never really been a big fan of that.
I haven't. It goes back to like the font and the numbering for me. Um, like I was disappointed in Baltimore's because Baltimore's was like all black, white font, orange.
Don't bring up Baltimore's.
I
Baltimore's
got.
Connect makes me angry.
I think they left a lot on the table, figuratively and literally. Because even like the designs on the sleeves, you got to roll them up to see it. The design on the legs, you got to roll them up to see it. So it's like half the team doesn't do that, and it's like it just looks like a plain black prison uniform from like the 50s. So it's like there just could have been a lot left. There was a lot left on the table. So
Um, Daryl said, speaking of the Phillies, they need to get a leadoff hitter.
amen.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. It would be nice. It would be really nice if Rojas could be that guy. Could end up being that guy. I know he struggles at the plate right now. Maybe he just is not going to be a very good hitter. We don't know. And I think his struggles stand out when the teams when more guys like Bryce has been struggling a little bit, Nick Castellanos struggling a little bit. So I think that kind of magnifies Rojas, right? Because if everybody was doing all right and Rojas wasn't hitting the ball at all, we would be over it. But right. Yeah, the Phillies do need to get a leadoff hitter, get Schwarber out of that spot. Even though I guess in the first week or so he was kind of hitting like a leadoff hitter, but he's not a leadoff hitter.
He's not a leadoff hitter.
He's not a leadoff hitter. Excuse me.
And in spite of the fact that it's been kind of up and down, the Phillies are off to their best start since 2019.
That's interesting. When you sent that to me, right? I was like, 2019. What was that, like 3 years ago? I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
That was wait a minute. That was 5 years ago. Yeah. I was still in Pennsylvania,
and there was no pandemic yet, and they stunk.
Well, they wound up stinking. It was a gradual stink
because that was before Harper came, correct?
No, that was the year Harper came. That was so when Harper came, I believe it was also the first year under what's his name? Coconut Milk. No.
No, he was around before Harper came.
Right. So he was still here his second year.
Okay. And then they brought in Girardi.
Right. After that.
Now Topper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But let's stick to baseball a little bit. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about how do I want to say this? Let's talk about the lack of black representation in Major League Baseball. We've actually spoke on that quite a few times, on this show, and the reasons why. And one of the main reasons why, and it's funny that we're talking about this today. Well, of course, yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day, across the major leagues. So everybody honors Jackie Robinson by wearing the number 42 on Jackie Robinson Day. And And Jackie Robinson played at a time when, if you don't know, you're going to learn today. There was another league outside of the majors called the Negro Leagues, which black players were allowed to play in, and Hispanic players were allowed to play in. And if you were good enough to play, you were allowed to play in the Negro Leagues. They were not discriminating. With that being said, of course, Jackie Robinson night is in honor of him breaking the color barrier, because, as I like to tell people, Jackie Robinson was not the first black man in the major leagues. And Miguel, you can remember I used to quiz the kids on that every year. Jackie Robinson was not the first black major league baseball player. There were black players before him, and then after that, that's when they put in the color barrier. That's when they put in the rule that blacks can't play in the major league.
They called it the gentleman's agreement.
The gentleman's agreement.
Pendejos. Sorry.
It is what it is. But anyway, the lack of representation of the black community in baseball, it's sad to me, because there people that watch this show know that one of my favorite teams growing up had a lot of black players on there. One of the teams I had to hate growing up had quite a few black players on it too. I kind of liked them before they beat the Phillies in the World Series. I'm talking about the early 90s Toronto Blue Jays. They had Ricky Henderson, Dave Winfield, Joe Carter, Devon White, Dave Stewart. They had all these guys. I know I'm missing some, but they had all these guys. Of course, they had Roberto Alomar on the team. They had Sandy Alomar on the team too, right? Or am I thinking of the
wrong team? You're thinking of the Cleveland baseball team.
Cleveland baseball team, excuse me. But they did have Devon White, Dave Stewart and all those guys. And those were the teams I kind of gravitated to, because those were people that looked like me playing the game. One of the reasons that you and I, Miguel, have spoke about, the reasons that there's a lack of representation from the black community, is that baseball has become an elitist sport, in a sense. If you have the money to get what's the adjective I want to use here, Miguel, for great?
What do you mean? If
training that you can get if you have the money when you're coming up as a youth baseball player. They get excellent training. Let's just say they get excellent training. They go to these facilities, and you're going. These parents put out a lot of money to go to take their kids to these facilities and get this training, with the hopes that they'll at least be able to play in college and maybe get a full scholarship, and they won't have to pay for their education, with the hopes. And some of these kids, as you've heard Miguel say on the show, some of these kids don't even want to play. Their parents forced them to play. And I just think that's kind of sad, because it was a game I grew up loving to play. It was actually a game that a lot of my closest friends were not better than. They were not better than me in the game. So, I really enjoyed playing it, because I had friends that played football, basketball, and all like that. And of course, they were better than me in those sports. I could play, but they were just better than me. They weren't better than me in baseball, but I was the only one that really played. So, it is what it is. Now that I've said that, Miguel, I want to talk about the Hispanic community, the Latino community, right? Because there's a lot of representation. There's a question here I'm going to put up here for you in just a second. There's a lot of representation from the Latino community in Major League Baseball. Do these? Oh, you're answering it. Okay. Do these? Do you know if these players that come from other countries, okay, have access to the type of training that some of the kids have? Do they have access to the same type of training that some of the kids over here have access to? I know there are academies over there,
right?
Stuff like that. Are those that what? Because they come over and they're pretty good. right?
Right.
For the most part, the ones that we tend to see, they're really good. Some of them, if you make it out of rookie ball, whatever the case. But are they getting the same type of training that the athletes are getting over here?
Yes and no. I think what it is, um, baseball's part of the culture. In like Santo Domingo, in Puerto Rico, there's been a lot of turmoil, between like the hurricanes and the earthquakes that have happened there. So baseball's not as much of a priority as it has been previous decades. Because at one point there was more out of the entire Latino population, there were more Puerto Ricans and Cubans that were playing. Now it's more like Dominicans, Venezuela, and a lot more of the islands towards South America. So the other thing is too, it's like I think the real issue is it comes down to, and I hate to say it, it comes down to who's going to cost less in the beginning. I always use this example of Carlos Ruiz, Chooch, right? Carlos Ruiz was drafted by the Phillies at the age of 16 as a second baseman, for $16,000. Now, I believe the money conversion, because he's from Venezuela, I believe, the money conversion is like quadruple that. It's something astronomical. So basically, he's got money now, but to us, that's like chump change. You know what I mean? That's why, like, when he became a free agent, he could have been the highest paid catcher in the game, but he only took, like, I think it was like maybe $10-13 million a year. He was maybe like the top 18 money making catchers, because the mindset of a Latino is like, I want to play this game and I'll do anything to play this game. But if I'm getting paid for it, that money's going back to my family.
Right.
Now for African Americans, black people, they know their worth. Y'all know your value. And I think that Major League Baseball just isn't trying to pay that. You understand what I'm saying? Because again, like, you keep hearing international draft, all these, everybody's being signed at 14, 15, 16 to like $2-3 million contracts, and they're over the moon. The other thing is too, there's been kind of, I was reading some things today that there's some tie-in to this country's view of DEI initiatives, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and how there's like, there's all these things about, we're tired of diversity. You know what I mean? We're tired of, I think there's a war on that is indirectly and directly affecting Black communities, and baseball doesn't have the greatest track record for race relations. Let's put that out there. To me, it's the most beautiful sport, but it's also got, the biggest, thing hanging over its head. But ever since 1987, it's been like kind of a downturn in regards to Black ball players. Oh wow.
You were looking at that comment there?
Yeah, I'm looking at the person who commented. So I'll get to him in a second, but he's a very good man. He's actually he's watching from Puerto Rico.
Oh, sweet. Greetings. Greetings.
Yeah. So
Irving Carrillo.
Yeah, Irving Carrillo. So just a little.
You gonna get all fancy on me?
Shut up. Shut up your face. Player looks at the game as the way sometimes do their economic situation. Yeah.
We go ahead, read that so the people can hear what you're saying.
So the Latino baseball player looks at the game as their way sometime to do their economic situation in those countries. The athletes do not go through the draft. So, you have the international draft, and then you have some that'll just come through like as an undrafted free agent or, kind of like a walk on situation. Um, but, what he's saying is valid. It's like, this can make my economic situation better.
Mhm.
And I can help more people because I don't know what the exchange rate is in a lot of the countries, but again, going back to Carlos Ruiz, if he's $16,000 could be like 80. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I think too, Major League Baseball kind of drops ball. Like yesterday was Jackie Robinson day. I think had you not mentioned that, I don't think a lot of people that watch our show would be like, "Oh yeah, it is." Jackie Robinson. It's like they'll kind of hang their hat on it for a little bit and then just leave it.
I feel like it wasn't really promoted this year as much as it has been in the past. Like
Right.
I feel like every year it gets kind of less and less and less traction on it. Because I didn't see a commercial for it until Monday.
Well, and it's also the way they promote stuff. Like, how like sometimes there's something going on in the background, but the announcers are like just talking about like pregame stuff. Like, here are the pitchers for tonight. Bryce Harper's not doing good against lefties, so he sits tonight. That's actually when the ceremonies are going on. They're not like broadcasting these things. You know what I mean? And even even in our video games, like you and I play the show, and they started doing this whole angle using Negro League content, which is very well done. The stories on the game are fascinating. You know me, I'm fascinated by that stuff.
Absolutely.
And then one of the biggest comments about the game last year was like, okay, you get to you get to win. If you play these different matchups, you can have Buck O'Neill, you can have Jackie Robinson, you can have John Donaldson, you can have all these players, and then once you get them, nothing, absolutely nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I think they picked up on it this year, and now they divided it into seasons. So it's like the first season, you can get Buck Leonard, who is the greatest first baseman that ever lived, and you can get Josh Gibson on top of all the players from last year. And now, you know what I mean? So now you're kind of graduating towards, getting that knowledge and also like familiarizing yourself with the things from the past,
Yeah, I like it. I do like that they've added that to the game, to the series. What I don't like about, I'm just talking about the video game. I don't like the seasons thing. I don't like the fact that I spent all this time putting this team together, this great team, getting all these players, and then here's the next season I can't use them.
That's not true.
Okay,
After
tell me how to work around it, please.
so it's not a workaround necessarily, but after season 2, you remember the wild cards, how you were only able to use one wild card? They give
Yeah.
you 4.
Okay.
You'll have 4, so you can still kind of build your team, but if there's 4 players that were just like tearing it up, you can have those 4 players on in the next season. You can do that from season to season.
Ooh, excuse me. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that because I don't necessarily play it enough to be able to enjoy my players for a whole season. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I know I had built up a team before, and then I hadn't played for a while, and I come back and I couldn't use any of the players. I was kind of mad.
Yeah, that's it forces you to kind of like, I try to play like one game a day. You know what I mean? Just to kind of see, because I think they added Jose Mendez and an upgraded Jackie Robinson. They actually added those 2 players that you can get on the team. But
I guess I got to start doing some more of the other things to get some of these players. Because there's like so many players I don't get because I don't do battle royals. I don't do this thing. I pretty much just do Diamond Dynasty games, like head-to-head games with people, and I do Road to the Show. And at some point, I'll start a franchise.
I have never done the Road to the Show, and I think part of it is because like it's so much work when I can just build my player from scratch, you know.
So, you're right, but
But I get the concept of it. But yeah,
you can also just do at bats. So when I got
that's
bored
true.
doing stuff in the field, I was like, well, let me just bat all the
Right.
time. But now I'm a two-way player. I'm a catcher and a pitcher. So yeah,
Just like real life.
I'm not a
But
pitcher. Well, maybe in like little league.
right. Um. But just real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to Irving.
Yes,
Irv, we used to call him back. So we played baseball together growing up. He actually went to Olney High School. I went to Northeast. We had like several, I call them iconic matchups because we kind of went tit for tat against each other. He was a left-handed pitcher. And we actually faced each other in a public league championship, which you can see on YouTube, the full game. In 1997, I think we played them in the championship. And it was Olney High's first championship in like 40 years, and it was because of him. But you know, he was. Say again.
You guys lost to him.
No, we beat him.
Oh, it was their first time in the championship.
Yeah, it was their first time their school went to the championship. I think at that time it was like 68 or 69 that they hadn't been to the championship. Okay. But we also played police athletic league baseball, and we actually wound up playing at the Vet, and I think he helped us win. We were down 8-0. We wound up winning 10-8 in extra innings. And we just had a lot of great. He said no, he didn't want to bring up any of that stuff. But he was definitely very he was one of the greatest friends I ever had, and I've never ever visited the motherland of Puerto Rico, and he's gonna show me around when we do finally get there. But it was yeah,
gotta get there.
Yeah.
I've never been there either though.
But I'm going to say, where did you go?
Yeah, I've never been. I would love to go, but I've never.
Yeah, been. I got you. But shout out to Irv, huh?
I think the only island I've ever been to was Jamaica.
I've been to Jamaica and I've been to Aruba's. Oh my god!
I've been to New York City. That's an island, right?
Yeah, but that's home of rats. That's yeah. Sidebar, they're trying to fix the rat problem in New York by feeding the rats birth control. There's a certain yeah exactly. that was the last report I heard, but
interesting. Yeah. All right. As we wind down the show, we're going to have to mention Devontae Smith and his contract extension. Glad they locked him in. They extended him for another 3 years, I believe it was 3-year extension. But a lot of people tend to think that his extension means the end of, eventually the end of the AJ Brown era, because they're saying that they may not be able to pay him when it comes time to pay him, or his cap hit is going to be ridiculous because the cap tax, I'm using the wrong word, but the cap tax goes up or something along those lines.
How many times? Thanks, Poppy. Appreciate you, man. I'll show. I still have an article saved from his courageous act, so I'll share with you on the show next week. But yeah, in Howie we trust. He always seems to have a way around that, what. So right, but it's like he knows how to make dead money into live money and to lower it and to change money into bonuses. It works both ways. It helps the team and it helps the player. They get their money sooner. You know what I mean? Who doesn't want that? I still don't know why you couldn't re-sign Hassan Reddick, but prayerfully, it's just water under the bridge. It's just one of those
I feel like there has to be something more there. Like, how do you not sign one of the best edge rushers in the league,
Mhm.
but you sign? Y'all know what happened. Y'all know
I,
what happened.
I'll,
There
I,
had to be something more to it.
probably, but here's what to look out for. If he does not sign an extension with the Jets,
Hmm. He
he
could be
might be
coming
back.
back.
He could be coming
He's
back.
coming back.
So
It could be
let's
one thing. Didn't they do that to like Jeremiah Trotter or something?
like twice, like 3 or 4 times, but they've
Yeah,
done that to a couple of players.
brought him back or something like that.
The safety that went to Detroit last year, they did that with him, and
Oh,
then they came
CJ Garner Johnson.
CJ, yeah. So
CJGJ.
CJGJ, and he comes back and gets the deal that he wants.
We just have to work with. Side note, a friend of mine, that I graduated from high school with, his cousin was Hassan Reddick's roommate in college at Temple, and they both played for Temple.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. So congratulations to Devontae Smith. And you have up there Free Sandro. What is that? What's that?
Okay, so for those that were following that follow me on my social media, there was a post that I had shared with everybody. One of my former players that I coached, who is going to be actually coaching with me for my new team in the summer. Apparently, there's an issue with what's the term? Eligibility. So he's getting ready to go into he's in his senior year of high school, but they're not letting him play. The athletic director, and her name is escaping me right now, for Prince George County, is not allowing him to play because of it's a arcane law in the country where you can't play. This happened with one of our players, Justin, where if they age out, they can't play their senior year.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
right. So but what happened was, the confusion is that he went to a school, I believe in DC, did not play his freshman year, and then transferred to a public school. I think he went from public to private, or something to that effect.
Mhm.
But long story short, he did not play his freshman year, so he's only played literally 2.5, 3 years of high school baseball. But they're looking at it as his year of eligibility. But in high school, I didn't think it worked like that. I thought it only worked like that in high. You know, how, like in college, you have like the redshirt freshman, but technically
Yeah.
you
In,
have that extra year.
in high school, yeah, you have 4 years. You have 4
But he's
years.
only play he didn't play his freshman year. He
Well,
plays right,
here's the thing. You have 4 years to play your 4 years, right?
right,
But there's an age limit.
right.
You have to be under. You can't turn 19, I think, by like the time your season starts. Something along those lines, or something like that. You can't turn 19 too early.
Right.
But you can play, and don't quote me on this, but I'm just talking about somebody that I remember this happening to.
Mhm.
I know somebody that played high school football. It started playing high school football in the 8th grade. And part of the reason, first of all, he was just good. He was dominant, way better than any middle schooler, right? He was a very good athlete. But part of the reason was he was going to be 19 before his senior year got started. He wouldn't have been able to play his senior year.
Right.
So to get him 4 years, they actually had him playing as an 8th grader, and played 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. That was my senior year. So I don't know how it all played out. My senior year is when he was playing in the 8th grade. So I don't know how it all played out. But from what I remember, what was supposed to happen was he played 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. And then he wouldn't be able to play anything his senior year. Football, he didn't play basketball. So I don't know if maybe he would have been able to play basketball his senior year. And I don't remember if he did play basketball. I think he did. But I do know football, he started early. Actually, I guess maybe not, because if he would have turned 19, then he
He
wouldn't be
wouldn't
able
have,
to
right.
play.
Well, the other thing was too is that he found out, Sandro. He found out that he actually wound up obtaining all of his credits too early. if that makes sense. So technically, he was a senior that I don't know if he can graduate early, and I'll get like more information on that. But he basically had all of his credits, so that's why they're saying now he can't play because you have all your credits, so you're not technically
Oh, so he's not really a student anymore. Technically, he doesn't have to go to school
right.
because he
But
has a
it's yeah, so it's that and the unplayed year of eligibility that was lost. But it's basically a lot of red tape that just seemed unnecessary.
Gotcha.
So there's a petition. If you go to my social media page, I think I posted it on my personal one and my coach's one. It's just they're trying to get a certain amount of names. And this dude is a good kid. He comes from an awesome family. His parents are awesome. They're great people. And he's probably one of the best teammates that you could possibly have.
Gotcha.
And he loves giving back, and he's just a good kid. You know what I mean? So it's unfair that he's watching his best friend play from the sidelines, and he should be catching his best friend. And it's not. Yeah, that's
I actually lost. I've told you, I've actually lost my last year of college eligibility. Because I didn't go through that's why I was so dead set on making sure kids go through the clearinghouse, whether they plan on playing the sport or not.
Yeah.
Go through the clearinghouse. When you're in high school, fill out the paperwork, whatever it is you got to do. Because once you walk on that college campus, if you are going to play a sport, you have 4 years to do so from the time you step on campus. If you go through the clearinghouse, you can redshirt and all that type stuff. We got a call coming in real quick. I want to get to this call because they called and they hung up. Now they're calling them back, and I'm going to put them through right now. Of course, I'm hitting the wrong button, so let me go ahead and get them through in here real quick. We got I believe it's Russell on the phone. Is this Russell?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Well, one, I called because I'm watching the live Facebook post, and then two, I want to say hi to Miguel. He know who I am once I say my name.
What's up, Jay? You go by an alias now, Russell?
Well, no, I'm listening. I'm watching on my phone and talking on my wife's phone, so that's why I said Russell.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I can chime in on your topic. In most states, once you turn 19, you can't play no more.
Right.
But you do have a prep year eligibility, which means you can go to a prep school or something like that.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. I do know people personally that have gone going to prep schools out of high school. And a lot of them, they do that too. You had to ask them person. Like everybody has their own reasons for doing it. Like me, I couldn't imagine spending another year in high school.
That's crazy.
But they do it, for the sport. I guess they're getting prepared to go to the next level. I don't really know how it works. I was not that type of athlete where I would have been invited to go to a prep school or even thought about going to a prep school or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is.
A lot of people are doing it now because when they reclass, once you enter ninth grade, you only have pretty much 4 years to play. And if you reclass, held back a year, or your birthday falls, or you're the late start and your birthday falls when you turn 19, pretty much in school, that's when you get that prep year.
But does it change if you don't play like your freshman year, for instance, like in the case of this student?
Well, I'm still in Pennsylvania. Well, I still referee in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. New Jersey is dead set. Once you turn 19, it can be the state championship game. You're done. You can't play no more. Right. In PA, the way they do it is if you turn 19 and you start the school, but it's your late birthday, they'll give you that year. But they have a bunch of transfer rules. So if you transfer from private to public, they'll let you play the year, but you can't play no state tournament games or nothing like that, or playoffs like that. and then once you have your 4 years, you got to go through prep pretty much. Prep
Wow.
school.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. And what's your name, Cole? I'm sorry. When Miguel yelled your name, I didn't understand what he says. What's your name?
Andre.
Andre. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for calling you wrong name. I just called you what came up on the call ID. My
Oh, no,
apologies.
it's no problem.
Yeah, he's he was we went.
Andre, we appreciate that information. Definitely appreciate your call. Appreciate your support. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to come join us on the Check Swing podcast.
Appreciate you, Dre. Good to hear from you, bro.
You too.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Thank you very much. All right. So we got that call in. I'm glad he called back because he hung up and then he called back. I was waiting for you to finish your statement so I go ahead and bring him in because I didn't want to have to wait too long. I was about to say something, I just forgot that fast. But definitely appreciate him calling, showing love and giving us that information because it's kind of a gray area because you don't see it that much.
Yeah, and like you said, like different states kind of manipulate the rule for different, because I think there's even a couple of states that will, if you decide to transfer from one school to another, you actually can't play. You have to sit out that year. And I that might have changed, but I know like it was an issue a couple years ago. Like if you went from like Philly to the county, you would lose that year, and then play.
There was something like that in place, and then there was something about going from a school to another school in the same conference. And actually, there was, and I guess it still can happen. A school can actually block a player from.
Yeah.
Oh, Daryl Watson said answer his question. He probably didn't see. He probably didn't see the answer up there earlier. So his question earlier, I'll put it back up here. He says, "Do either of you know who the first black superstar was for the Phillies?" And,
so that's the loaded question. Superstar. If you're talking about first black superstar, I would say Dick Allen.
I kind of thought you would say that.
I thought he was saying who the first black player was, but he said first black superstar, so I had to reread the question. But I would say the first black superstar for the Phillies specifically would be Dick Allen.
Dick Allen. So Dick Allen was a superstar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hence why you can debate whether he was run out of town. You can debate and I want to do a piece on him because he was basically, I can't think of like another cool. I got it right. I won.
So you haven't had a good question in a while on this show.
So yeah, he was like the equivalent to like he was like the Terrell Owens back in the day, but he was the first. And look, if you want to look back at Philly's history, even Philly's history isn't really. It's not the South, but Philly doesn't have a great race history. Okay,
go ahead and check out the Jackie Robinson movie, the one that came out recently, not the original Jackie Robinson movie.
Right.
Jackie Robinson played himself. Check out the one that came out recently. I forgot who the director was, but Chadwick Boseman played Jackie Robinson. I don't think it was Coogler. I don't think Coogler directed that movie, but I kind of look up who directed that. I'm going to look it up right now while we're on the show. This is what I do.
But Dick Allen, for those, and I'll do a like a little piece on that. But Dick Allen was like, he was probably one of the, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Willie Stargell made comments about how great he was. And by contrast to those players, the reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame now is part of it is allegedly he didn't have enough years, even though he played like 13, 14 years. He got traded to a lot of teams, not because he was bad, but it was because of the reputation.
They didn't know how to handle a black man of that type of stature in that time.
in that time, because he came up in the 60s, the mid 60s. He was brought up to the Phillies in 64, and that was the year of the great, at that time, it was the greatest collapse in sports history, because they had a 8-game lead with 10 games to play and blew it. They lost like the last 9 games and won the last one, and it didn't matter at that point.
So I gotta ask you,
Uh-oh.
because I can now. What's the bigger collapse? That Phillies collapse or the Eagles collapse this year? Probably Phillies, because the Eagles made the playoffs, kind of by default.
Right, and back then there was no playoffs, so you
went to the World Series.
You went straight to the World Series. Matter of fact,
and then you went to the World Series.
Right, and matter of fact, with 6 games to play, the Phillies actually printed out World Series tickets, and there's some collectors out there that actually still have 1964 World Series tickets with the Phillies on it. That's how devastating the collapse is. But we'll cover all that. But Dick Allen was the first black superstar, and he was also he was not soft spoken.
Right.
Part of the issue was there was a fight between him and a racist player, which they wound up being close friends. Even to prior to his death. But there was a brief redemption, because after he got traded to like the 12 teams, won an MVP with the White Sox, and when the Phillies were coming up in the mid 70s, they actually asked him to come out of retirement to come back, and he mentored Mike Schmidt. So, but we'll cover all that in the future. But yeah, it's definitely a.
You're always dropping some type of knowledge on me on this show. I didn't know he mentored Mike Schmidt.
He mentioned, matter of fact, and Mike Schmidt will tell you the story, because he was having a slump, and Dick Allen was like, "Dude, you need to chill out. Like, you need to just have fun, and like, you don't read the papers or whatever." He said that day he hit 4 home runs at Chicago's Wrigley Field.
Sheesh.
So yeah,
that's a lot of home runs to hit in one day. Bro, retired.
Yeah, man.
Right after that. All right. Oh, and the director of 42 is a gentleman named Brian Helgeland.
Sure.
Helgeland. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's spelled Helgeland.
Held it in his hands. Is that on it?
Something. Hell if I know if I'm gonna get his name right. I'll tell you that. We go. You know where I got that from? That was a Cosby Show reference too. That was from the Alpha Gang episode. Do you remember that one?
Oh man.
And she was like, L. It's like, why can't I get L? And Dr. Huxtable was like, I don't know, but you're in a hell of a jam now. Yo, I love the Cosby Show, man. And the older I get, and as a parent, I enjoy it more and more. I understand him better. You know who I understand? Two TV characters I understand so much better now that I'm a married man and I'm raising a kid. Dr. Huxtable and Al Bundy. And I don't even know how I just understand Al Bundy, because I don't feel like my life is parallel with his life at all, right?
Right.
I just feel like I understand him a little more now. Like I feel like I get it. Like he'd want to come home, sit on the couch, watch TV. Then what? Somebody comes in. Ow.
Don't show your wife this part of the segment.
No, I hope she's not watching.
I still cringe at the Spanish Fly episode though.
Of
Cosby Show.
Of the
Cosby Show.
Spanish Fly episode.
He talks about Spanish Fly when he's out in the back shooting hoops, and he's like flirting with Mrs. Huxtable, and he's talking about, I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, he talks about the Spanish Fly. He even talks about. I think he even references it in it was on CNN, I think, with Larry King.
So Larry King, yes,
He talked
did.
about the Spanish
You
Fly.
only need like a pin
Yep.
head or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, he definitely did. Yep, he definitely.
But he did it in his Hello Jello voice.
Yes. So it got by. So it got by. It passed. It passed.
Woo!
Won't get into that whole situation. I'm not going to get into that
Y'all from the 70s, man. Y'all were freaks.
about that situation. I'm going to force myself to not do it because I'm going to end the show now. I'm going to end it. We've been on here for almost an hour and a half. It's time to let the people rest.
Yes.
As well as myself, because I'm tired, because this has been a long day. A very long day. Okay. So with that being said, we are going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us here on the Check Swing Podcast with myself and the star of the show, the brains of the, and you can see why he's the brains of the operation. You see all them facts he just spit out just off the top of his head, just like that. That's why he's here. The brains of the operation, Mr. Miguel Coach Santa.
I was a bored child.
Soon to be Dr. Coach Santa. And maybe one day I'll be Coach Watson Esquire if I ever get over my fear of the LSAT. and then I find money to pay for law school.
Wait, you're just gonna walk around and be like, I object and move the strike.
Yes. I'm gonna have a gavel too, because lawyers become judges. So I'm gonna have a gavel. I would not want to be a judge though.
I would love it.
Not want to be a judge. They probably get money though. Anyway. We're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us. Make sure y'all go to the YouTube channel if you have not done so yet. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, and let me see, I'm going to look at it. There are some people watching this on YouTube right now. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And what
Please.
you can do is you can check out all the live shows that happen here on New to Us Radio. I'm talking about Check Swing Podcast. I'm talking about the 10-7 show. I'm talking about Intelligent Ignorance, which is coming back this summer, y'all. We were discussing it just not too long, about 2 hours ago. We were just discussing it. It's coming back very soon. So we're looking at June for the Check Swing Podcast. And then some of our old shows too. I mean, 10-7 has been going on for about 5-6 years now, it feels like. Maybe 4. Maybe I'm exaggerating. The Check Swing Podcast has been going on for 3 years now, 2-3 years.
2021.
I think we're in our third year right now.
Third year, yes, sir.
Third year right now. So we have a lot of content that you can go and check out, and make sure you share it with your friends. And if you have anything that you want to comment on, of course, you can always call us during the show at 669-275-0548. Or, you know what, I'll give you the other number that you can text next week, because I don't feel like pulling it up because I wasn't planning on giving it out right now. Anyway. We're going to get up out of here. We talk to y'all next week. We appreciate y'all hanging with us. And if I keep stalling, I'm never going to get off the show. So we'll talk to y'all next time. We love y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.
As soon as I find the thing.
Hit it again.